So this is a BlackLight Wi-Fi smart camera. So I was sent this to review for free. If you wanted to purchase it, it would cost you $120. They haven't paid me for my review, and my opinions remain my own. Alright, so in the packaging, we get the Wi-Fi camera here with some antennas that can be repositioned. You can see those antenna wires go inside there. It also comes with a, looks like an Ethernet connector with a cable gland and a power input and a power adapter, so you can power it without using Ethernet if you'd like. Now this camera is significantly more expensive than similar Wi-Fi pan-tilt cameras, and it claims to be a blacklight camera, which you might think means it uses ultraviolet light, but it basically says it has an ultra-low light camera, so it can do night vision with, just kind of like starlight or just a little tiny bit of moonlight. So the big selling point of this camera and why it costs more is the night vision performance. So I'm primarily going to be looking at the night vision performance. It has a sticker on it. It says model T400, and then it has power is 12 volts DC at 2 amps. This guy here says 12 volts DC at 2 amps. And this does have a picture of an umbrella with water on it. I'm not sure if that means it should be protected from water or it's waterproof. It does have holes on the bottom, so it doesn't look like it's super watertight. And they include some mounting screws and either concrete or drywall anchors there, and a small instruction manual. So in the manual it says ultra low light. Even in ultra low light configurations as low as 0.01 lux, you can still have the same pictures in the daytime. And it says night vision provides a visual distance of more than 3,000 feet in total darkness. Alright, the manual has a super tiny QR code, and you're supposed to download the IVY Smart app. So the IV Smart app, log in, add your camera, so forth. Now it does support the installation of an onboard memory card, a trans flash or micro SD card. You have to unscrew these two screws, pull that thing out, and insert it in there. It's not included in the package. First comment is I feel like this manual was supposed to be printed 4 times as big, because the text and pictures and images in there are just so tiny. If you get a magnifying glass out, you can read them, but they are not really usable for normal eyes. The manual talks about feeding an Ethernet cable through the cable gland and tightening it down here. It doesn't say anything about power over Ethernet. It says, hey, once the Ethernet cable and the power cable are hooked up, this thing can do Ethernet. So they have options of basic, standard, and pro with different numbers of days of cloud recording and alerts and so forth. They do not appear to have a free subscription level, but I'm just going to try using the camera without subscribing to anything. The camera powered on, I'm going to hit add device. It says Bluetooth. You can also do Wi-Fi add or scan QR code. So I'm going to scan the QR code, and we will found the QR code. Okay, plug in the device. Device is powered on. We know there's a little light right there. And hit next. Please connect the device to the router with a network cable. So it wants me to connect it to a router. Maybe I can do Bluetooth, because I'm just trying to hook up Wi-Fi here. Okay, I'll click on Bluetooth. We have indicator light green and so forth. Hit next. And it wants to be able to use Bluetooth location to find devices. It found the device. It says, hey, you have to use 2.4 gigahertz. Pick a Wi-Fi network. Right, I put in the network password. It says adding, don't exit the app or turn off the device during this process. Requires approximately 2 minutes to complete. Seems to be going a little faster than that. We're already up to 61%.
Network connection successful.
Alright, we have a verbal prompt that it was successfully connected to the network. And maybe it's downloading and installing firmware updates at this point, because it did slow down a little bit there. We're up to 70% now. Alright, looks like it's added. It wants to set a name up. You can pick my camera or put a different name in. We'll hit just save. And then it says it's on. It hasn't got an actual video feed yet, but I think it's going to try to do that soon. Okay, and there I am. Alright, it's trying to sell me the cloud services. It says free trial for 30 days. And I'll just say I don't need right now. Alright, so out of the box it says my firmware is up to date already. Alright, I unscrewed this little panel. There is a rubber gasket in there. There's a reset button right here, and then I plugged in a micro SD card into this slot right there. So I thought these were infrared LEDs, but it looks like they're white fill lights. And the setting here is you can set it to auto to turn in the fill light auto. You can have the fill light turned off, or you can just say turn it on. So I had this guy set up just kind of recording my backyard for about a month. And in that time, the price has dropped down to $75. So at the original price, I wasn't terribly impressed with this camera, but at the new lower price, it's starting to look a little better. So the low light technology, or the blacklight sensor, does a really good job. I can see out my backyard all the way over to the lake and houses on the other side of the lake, even in the dark of night. So a hurricane came through overnight and I could look out the camera and see what was out there. Didn't need any exterior lights. So the low light sensor on this guy's impressed me quite a bit. Now everything else about the camera build-wise is very much your kind of plastic, generic, pan tilt dome camera. Nothing super impressive. On the software side, it does what it claims to do. It records videos, it detects motion, it has a little bit of AI to try to determine, like, was a package delivered or was a vehicle driving by or a person moving by. And the AI sometimes gets things wrong, but it definitely notices when something happens. And so it makes a recording when it sees motion, and it sends you an alert. So Wi-Fi connectivity was fine. I have not tried the Ethernet. It didn't say anything about supporting power over Ethernet, and since it has this power adapter right there, I'm going to assume it probably doesn't, but I didn't test that. Software-wise, the phone app is backed by the Foscom or Foscam server backend, and I have not been impressed with those in the past, but it mostly worked. There were some weird things, like I couldn't set the time zone of the camera correctly, so the date and time was always wrong on the camera display. Like there was a place to set it, but you put a setting and it just wouldn't save. So I really wasn't impressed by any of the software or the hardware, with the exception of the low light sensor. The low light sensor was quite good. So at the price point, it's okay. I'm not going to give it a ringing endorsement, but it did everything it claimed it was going to do, and it's pretty impressive, the low light vision capability of the camera. So, you know, the hardware is, you know, kind of mediocre with the exception of the sensor, I think. The software is also kind of mediocre, and so, yeah, I'm kind of meh on the whole thing. The sensor's pretty cool though, so I really am impressed by the sensor and the low light capability of the sensor, but really nothing else other than the sensor says that this is a great product. It's just a so-so product. There's nothing specifically horribly wrong with it, but I'm not really impressed either.